The Toronto Raptors have officially waived Bruno Fernando, and to some, the timing of this decision seems suspicious. So what are the Raptors really planning on doing with this open roster spot? Let's get into it. This is Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content in videos like this and live streams on the channel. Drop a like if you enjoyed this one along the way and make sure you're subscribed. Help us on the road to 18,000 subscribers. And today we're discussing the Bruno Fernando situation because he's fallen a bit out of favor from an on-court perspective, not getting much playtime recently, and now the player has been waived. It opens up a roster spot and it opens up opportunities for the Raptors, Masai Ujiri, and the front office. So we're going to cover why the Raptors made the decision and what they should be planning on doing with that spot available, because there's a wealth of opportunities. So make sure you stick around to hear all of those possibilities in the video today. But Bruno Fernando has been waived, and this was not a surprise. If you've really been following along with this saga here, it was to be expected at this point. I already mentioned that he's fallen a little bit out of favor rotation-wise, hasn't been getting play time, but the bigger reason why he's been waived here is flat out because his guarantee was about to kick in. In the offseason, the Raptors signed Bruno Fernando to a training camp deal. He had an open roster spot. They recognized there was a complete lack of rim protection on this team, so why not give Bruno Fernando a try? See what he can do in training camp, see what he can do in preseason. Now, as fans watching the team, like myself, we didn't get to see what was going on in training camp, but we certainly saw what Bruno Fernando could bring to the team in preseason. And with all due respect, there wasn't a lot that was being showcased there, and not enough to warrant taking up that roster spot. The Raptors had a roster spot available, so it's not like Bruno Fernando took a spot away from somebody else, but it was just like, okay, if we're going to be a selling team this season, maybe having that open roster spot gives us the opportunity to take on an additional player in a trade. We can save that money that we're giving Bruno Fernando. It didn't really seem like it made sense for the Raptors to commit to Bruno Fernando for the season, especially considering that the contract he signed was a training camp deal. However, if he did make the opening night roster, that contract would be guaranteed for the rest of the season. So I was pretty surprised when it was confirmed that Bruno Fernando had made the team, but then I became less surprised a day later when the information came out that he was only going to be guaranteed until early January. Well, it's early January. The guarantee for the rest of the season was about to kick in. And the Raptors, I mean, it was pretty much written on the wall. The guy wasn't getting play time. When he was maybe a little bit lackluster, although you could definitely argue that Bruno Fernando as the backup five would have been a better option than Kelly Olynyk as of late. Jonathan Moe would have been an even better backup five decision. But Bruno Fernando feels like could have warranted a little bit of playtime recently, but I mean, it seemed like they knew where this one was going here. Look, Bruno Fernando got some more valuable NBA experience. He got $1 million to his credit for playing for the Raptors for half a season and not really getting much playtime at that. From what I saw, he looked like a good teammate, and I wish him all the best in the future, but this decision made sense for the Raptors here. So now this presents us, as I said, the opportunity for the Raptors to go and do something with this open roster spot. And there's been some suspicions out there from the fan base. People have hit me up on social media questioning, like, does this mean that something big is imminent for the team? Well, I hate to burst the bubble, but probably not. The situation, like I said, for Fernando here, if you're surprised by the timing of Bruno Fernando getting waived, it's strictly his guarantee was about to kick in. They don't want to continue to pay a guy who isn't playing for them, and they'd rather go in a different direction. Is that different direction a trade? Well, we can't rule it out completely, but what is more likely the possibility here for the Raptors is that they've assessed that they're going to be tanking at some point. It's a rebuilding season. We know that. Like, the season is not going anywhere near to expectations. If you want to see my distaste for the coaching staff, head over to the Amateur Hour Reactions YouTube channel, and perhaps later in this channel, later this week, maybe even, all the video coming out about the current state of the team. But regardless of all that, the team is not playing to expectations this season. Even if your expectations were low, this Raptors team is even lower than that, because they were still projected to win 29 to 30 games this season. They only have 8 wins this season at the time of recording, at the time of release, but it's certainly underwhelming for the Raptors here. So what teams like to do in this position is get a good look at a bunch of players playing in the G League to see if they can make that step up to the NBA. The Raptors did it a bunch last season, but that open roster spot is likely primarily going to be used for 10-day contracts. Not super often you find a player on a 10-day contract who comes in and seriously makes an impact for your team and maybe signs on for the next season, but it happens. And there's been some cases in previous years of guys who come in on 10-day contracts and then get a shot next season. Like the most recent example was DJ Carton. Didn't really work out, got signed on a couple 10-day contracts last year with the Raptors, earned himself a spot on the training camp roster this summer, earned himself a two-way contract with the Raptors, but then eventually did get waived, and mostly because he just couldn't really stay healthy. But it provides an opportunity to get a look at a bunch of players here to see if they can help your team, not only for the present, but also going forward. And to get a look at those guys and different players on those 10-day contracts is definitely more valuable than having Bruno Fernando on your roster. But on top of being able to sign different players on these 10-day contracts, you can also do something for your own current roster, one of the players in your current roster. We've seen in the past with the Jeff Dowtin situation for the Raptors that two-way players only have a certain amount of NBA games that they're actually allowed to be dressed for. And the way things have been going this season with injuries and perhaps with this player just playing really well, Jamison Battle might get to that cap at some point. Jamison Battle has been playing pretty good basketball for the Raptors, clearly a good shooter. Clearly capable in other ways, and if it's a fully healthy Raptors team, he's likely not getting play time. But as an undrafted rookie, like there's certainly potential for him going forward, and you could give him that vote of confidence by converting his two-way contract to a standard NBA deal. I mean, Jamison Battle has really kind of achieved the dream of an undrafted player. Undrafted, got signed to a summer league team like the Raptors, earned himself a spot in training camp as a result of his summer league performances on an Exhibit 10 deal, played so well in preseason that it earned him a two-way contract, and now it could be him playing so well, it earns him a standard NBA deal. Like, that would really be the formula for all these guys who ever go undrafted, and there's a lot of players that do go undrafted. I mean, only 60 players get drafted every year. That may seem like a lot, but there's a lot more that don't get selected in that phase who can see this sort of trajectory and say they could do that themselves. So the Raptors could give that vote of confidence to Jamison Battle and ensure they can continue to play him for the rest of the season by giving him that final roster spot. But again, the speculation does go back to the possibilities through a trade. And honestly, I don't think the timing of this indicates anything like that is going to happen. Now, look, could a trade happen like tomorrow or today, later today? Like, maybe. Who knows? A trade could happen any day right now for the Raptors leading up to the deadline, which is, it's January 7th. The trade deadline is less than a month away, ladies and gentlemen, but a trade could certainly happen, and it certainly doesn't hurt to have this additional flexibility of an open roster spot to make that trade happen and to take back an additional player in the deal. Would the way the market is set right now, it's looking like it's going to be extremely difficult to make trades for guys like Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher, and to a lesser degree, Kelly Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl. In the previous video, we talked about the possibilities through a trade for the Raptors this season and why that's going to be difficult if you want to go check that out. However, they can insert themselves into various different trade discussions for guys like maybe Jimmy Butler gets moved, maybe Bradley Beal gets moved. And all of a sudden, with the CBA, the constraints towards the salary cap, the aprons and all of that, it's going to be becoming a little bit more fashionable to be the third team in a trade. Now, I usually would say and agree with various other creators who would say the speculation regarding a three-team trade usually leads to a zero-team trade. Three-team trades just don't really happen. I mean, you have the Bruce Brown, Pascal Siakam trade last year where the Pelicans just kind of insert their way in with Kyra Lewis and a second-round pick being involved, but three-team trades just don't really happen. But in this scenario, the Raptors could kind of turn themselves into a little bit of a salary dumping ground in a way and insert themselves in that capacity into a three-team trade. And maybe by taking on a little bit of salary to facilitate two other teams making a trade, they can get back some other assets like draft assets to make it happen. So there's definitely possibilities for the Raptors here. Look, they could do 2-for-1 trades with Bruce Brown. They could be that salary dumping ground. What I'm trying to say is, though the likeliest outcome is 10-day contracts, the Raptors want to use that spot for, or converting Jamison Battle, there is still the flexibility now and the opportunity to use that extra roster spot through a trade. And all of these scenarios are unfortunately more valuable than having Bruno Fernando on the team and paying Bruno Fernando to be on the team. And it also gives the Raptors a little bit of extra breathing room from the luxury tax, which they are absolutely positively not going to be entering. So, we thank Bruno Fernando for his service. Seemed to always give it all for the team. seemed to be a good teammate on the bench, always hyping up the guys and being excited on the bench. That's great to see. I hope he gets another opportunity somewhere in the NBA, but I can completely understand the timing of waiving him and the decision to waive him. If you think this is something big is on the way, then unfortunately that's not the case. What the Raptors are really planning in this situation is just giving themselves extra flexibility and providing that platform to sign players on 10-day contracts, and that's kind of all there really is to it. But do you disagree? Do you think something big is coming? Give me your thoughts and opinions on in the comments down below. Comments make a big difference to the YouTube algorithm, so I'd appreciate to hear your thoughts and get engaged down there. Please make sure you have hit that like button. If you did enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel for more Raptors content and check out our merch. I'm rocking the black hat here. We have the same hat in white. We also have shirts. Head to the Kijiji link in the description to hit me up. Get yourself some merch today.